Fly along Australia's coastline at night, and you can watch an entire nation pass beneath you as a thin ribbon of light. Sydney glowing around its harbor, a chain of beach towns strung down the coast, then Melbourne curled around its bay. And behind them, blackness. Not the ordinary dark of countryside, a darkness the size of a continent. Australia is enormous, a single country nearly as large as the mainland United States. Yet almost everyone in it presses against the rim. The government's own environmental accounting puts a precise number on the habit. 87% of Australians live within 50 kilometers of the sea. That is more than 22 million people, out of a nation of more than 27 million, holding to a coastal strip so narrow that on a map of the whole continent, it nearly disappears. Picture a traveler at a city's edge at dawn, where the last street runs down to the sand, and the country seems to face the water, its back turned on everything behind it. Now drive inland. Within an hour or two, the crowd simply ends. The road's empty. The green fades. The continent opens into a red immensity that holds almost no one at all. So the real question is not why its cities hug the sea. It is what lies behind them.
What pushed a nation to the outer edge of its island, and what holds it there?
The answer begins in the country Australians themselves call the dead heart.
Turn inland, and the continent changes its mind about you. The beaches give way to farmland. The farmland thins into scrub, and then the scrub surrenders to something older and harder, the deserts of the interior. They are not one desert, but many. The nation's geoscientists map 10 by name, and together they cover nearly a fifth of the mainland. The largest of them alone approaches the size of Germany, an ocean of red dunes, saltbush, and spinifex, where you can drive all day and meet no one. This is the driest inhabited continent on Earth. Out here, rivers are drawn on maps in dotted lines, because in most years they do not run at all. They are memories of water, waiting sometimes years for a flood to fill them for a few weeks. Even the country's largest lake lives out here, and for most of its life it is not a lake, but a blinding white salt pan, the lowest ground on the continent, holding the outline of water that almost never comes. Picture the traveler alone now on a dead straight red dirt road, heat shimmering off the ground, the horizon flat in every direction. No fence, no roof, no one else to the edge of sight. Australians call this the dead heart, and it is less an insult than a diagnosis. Nearly a fifth of the continent is true desert, and much of the rest is dry enough to count. But deserts are never accidents. Something builds them.
The machine drying out Australia's middle is one of the oldest and most reliable on the planet.
Every desert on Earth has a manufacturer, and Australia's sits directly overhead. Air that rises over the equator, wrung dry of rain, comes back down around the middle latitudes as a permanent belt of high pressure, a ridge of slowly sinking, drying air that parks over the continent for much of the year, like a lid pressing the sky shut. Sinking air does not make clouds, it erases them. That is half of the machine. The other half is the land itself. When moist ocean air does reach a continent, mountains are how you cash it in. Force the air up a high range, and it drops its water. Australia can barely do that, because this is the lowest, flattest continent on Earth, worn down over hundreds of millions of years, with no young ranges left to catch the sky. Its highest peak barely rises above 2,200 meters. On other continents, that is a foothill. The one long range it does have runs down the eastern edge, and it does its job too well. It catches the Pacific rain on the seaward side, on the narrow green strip where the cities are, and lets almost nothing across. Averaged over the whole country, rainfall comes to less than 500 millimeters a year, the least of any inhabited continent. Beneath it all lies some of the oldest, most deeply weathered ground on Earth, its soils leached thin over immense time. A lid of dry air above, no mountains to break it, old, starved soils below. Stack those three facts, and the empty middle stops being a mystery. Yet the interior holds a secret the map never shows. Beneath the driest ground on the continent, there is water.
Beneath the red center of Australia lies one of the largest bodies of underground water of its kind on Earth. It is called an Artesian basin, layers of water-bearing sandstone sealed beneath rock, stretching below 1.7 million square kilometers, more than a fifth of the entire continent. The rain that feeds it falls far away, along the ranges of the east coast. It seeps into the tilted stone and creeps underground toward the center of the continent, moving only meters in a year. Some of the water rising from the deepest bores first fell as rain as much as 2 million years ago. And because the whole basin lies under pressure, you do not have to pump it. Drill down and the water climbs the pipe on its own, sometimes bursting out hot enough to scald. That trick, ancient water rising by itself in the driest country on Earth, is why much of the inland is inhabited at all. Windmills and bores stitched a thin web of life across the interior, cattle stations the size of small European countries, each one possible because somewhere on it a pipe reaches down into that buried sea. Picture the traveler at one of those bores at first light, steam curling off a trough of warm artesian water while cattle drink, in the middle of a plain with nothing else made by humans in sight. But notice what the water underneath did not build: no cities, no green fields, no second coast in the middle. It is permission for a scattering of people to hold on out here, not an invitation for a nation to move in. For that, you need the edge. And the edge has to be held together.
A nation stretched around the rim of a continent has a shape problem. Its cities sit apart at distances that would cross several countries in Europe, with some of the emptiest land on Earth in between. Australia's answer is a loop. One national highway runs all the way around the continent, a ring of bitumen thousands of kilometers long that hugs the coast and links the capitals into a single circuit. Nearly everything the coastal nation eats, builds, and sells moves along that ring, much of it behind the country's signature machine, the road train. One truck hauling 3 or 4 trailers down the long, empty stretches between cities. Where the ring crosses the great treeless plain of the south, the land runs so flat and so featureless that the railway beside it runs dead straight for close to 500 kilometers without a single curve. Often called the longest straight stretch of track in the world. Trains cross it for days, horizon to horizon, and the view out the window barely changes. And what does the ring hold together? Almost the whole country. 2 out of every 3 Australians are counted in the greater capital cities, a handful of coastal metropolises, the biggest of them home to more than 5 million people each. In between, the ring passes surf towns, ports, and farming coasts. And on its inland side, kilometer after kilometer, the empty country begins within sight of the road. One thin line of asphalt and rail drawn around the edge of a continent, carrying a nation that never strays far from it. Off that line, the story changes fast. Because the inland did try to hold towns once, and the inland gave most of them back.
Scattered across the interior are the towns that tried, gold towns that held thousands a century ago, with hotels, churches, and crowded main streets. And then, when the gold thinned out, or the mine finally closed, emptied in weeks. Their iron head frames still stand over silent shafts. Their tin-roofed cottages sag open to the wind. Out on the old pastoral country, abandoned homesteads sit exactly as they were left. A rusted windmill, a roofless kitchen, a fence line running to the horizon for no one. Today, only about 2 in every 100 Australians live in the remote and very remote country that makes up most of the continent's area. The places that endure out here endure by adaptation. In one famous opal town, summer is so fierce that much of the population lives underground, in homes carved into the rock. And a growing share of the inland's workforce does not live inland at all. Workers fly thousands of kilometers from the coast to desert mines, live in camps for weeks, and fly home again.
the interior as a place you commute to, not a place you stay. Yet the oldest story out here runs the other way entirely. Aboriginal people have lived on this continent, including its driest country, for something like 65,000 years, reading its waters and seasons with precision the newcomers never matched. The inland was never unlivable. It has simply never been livable in the way a modern coastal economy wants to live. Picture the traveler at a lonely fuel stop at dusk, the last for hundreds of kilometers, as a road train sighs to a halt. The whole scene one small island of light in an ocean of dark. This is what remains.
Put it all together, and Australia stops looking like a strange map and starts looking like a solved equation. A lid of sinking, drying air sits over a continent too old and too flat to argue with it, so the middle gets almost no rain. Nearly a fifth of the mainland is desert, on the driest inhabited continent. The water that does exist inland hides underground, an ancient sea beneath more than a fifth of the country, enough to keep cattle stations and a scattering of towns alive, and nothing more. So the rain, the rivers, the soil, and the harbors all agree on the same answer: the edge. And the nation follows that agreement to the letter. 87% of Australians live within 50 kilometers of the sea. 2 out of every 3 are counted in the greater capital cities strung along the coast. One ring of highway and rail stitches those cities into a nation, and beyond the ring, the towns the inland could not keep fall quietly back into the red. None of this was an accident, and none of it was really a choice. It is geography setting the terms: where the water falls, where the soil holds, where a harbor can open, and more than 27 million lives arranging themselves inside those terms. A continent nearly the size of the mainland United States, its whole nation balanced on the rim. That is not a curiosity. It is the logic of the land, written in lights along the coastline every single night. If the hidden logic of the planet's most extreme places is the kind of story you want to keep chasing, subscribe to AerialEarth, and come with us to the next one.